You're listening to Miss Style, Strength, and Grace with Deidra Murphy. This is your one-stop shop for style, fashion, health, and fitness. Deidra's passion is to help empower women to reach their fullest potential, both inside and out. Deidra and her guests will be discussing how to develop your style, health, and lifestyle hacks to energize your day and inspire you to keep reaching higher levels of success. Deidra is a professional fashion stylist, health guru, and Mrs. Washington 2017. It's time to get open and honest with Deidra.
2 years ago, I lost. I lost in a really terrible way, and it was really heartbreaking. In 2016, I didn't even make the top 10 of Mrs. Washington, when just the year prior, in 2015, I had been first runner-up. So in 2016, I thought I had the pageant in the bag. Little did I know that I was competing not only against the woman that would not only become Mrs. Washington, but also Mrs. America just 6 weeks later. I didn't even make the top 5. And I remember standing there on stage in the top 10 as each contestant was named a runner-up. So they started with the 4th runner-up, then they named the 3rd, the 2nd. Finally, they named the 1st runner-up, and I was so thankful my name did not get called. However, as I was standing there, I knew this is my moment. I'm going to win. I'm the Mrs. Washington 2016. And your new Mrs. Washington is Natalie Lutmer, the woman standing directly on my left, holding my left hand. What was I to do? I smiled, I reached over and I hugged her, and then I took a step back. This was not my moment to shine. I was dying a little bit inside, crying silently, trying to keep those tears back because I knew I didn't want to let those tears fall on stage with a spotlight directly on the woman left of me. And I kept a smile on my face. It was absolutely forced, no doubt about it. And it hurt. It actually literally physically hurt my cheeks to keep it plastered on there. I felt like at the end of Toy Story 2, the Barbie that's like saying sayonara, like, okay, bye-bye now, bye-bye. Can I stop smiling? My cheeks hurt. I felt like that was me on stage. That night, I attended the after party of the pageant. I went to the shindig and I kept that smile plastered on my face. I wanted to be a gracious loser. But I also went on to attend dinner with my friends and family that had traveled a long distance all the way up to Wenatchee, Washington, just to see me compete. Some of them even drove up that night and were driving home that same evening, a 3-hour drive, all in one day. And again, I kept my emotions inside. It wasn't until that night in the hotel room that I cried. I let it all out in my hotel room with my husband, let the tears fall. I let the tears fall until the point where they were all dried up and I literally had no more liquid inside my eyes to fall. The next 24 hours, pictures kept getting posted on social media, news outlets, and other mediums. And I was so glad that the night before I had kept my smile on. As Natalie got crowned Mrs. Washington 2016, I was there directly in the background, standing right behind her with my forced smile plastered on my face. To others, it might just look like I was happy for her, but I know looking back on those photos that I was dying a little bit inside. However, the point is, I just kept smiling. I wanted to make sure I stayed gracious and happy for the new winner, and at the time, little did I know that my time would come. I just had to be patient for God's timing to be in His plan, and it would be a year later. To this day, I am so thankful that I just kept smiling. I think of Dory on Finding Nemo, and instead of saying, just keep swimming, I say, just keep smiling, smiling, smiling. Not only because those pictures of her continue to pop up on my Facebook and social media every now and then, but also for Natalie. How much would I have ruined her moment in the spotlight, especially as she cherishes that memory and that photograph of her getting crowned? How much would it be a bummer for her to see in the background a scowling face during her crowning glory? Not only would it have not been fair to her, but it wouldn't have been fair to myself. There is a time and a place for everything. Was it okay to feel sadness? Yes. There are times in life when we work so hard for something, but it just wasn't meant to be. Or maybe God is telling us just not yet. For me specifically, it wasn't my time. I needed to be in the right place in my heart in order to actually become a good Mrs. Washington, in order to serve others. And God had a different plan that I didn't know of at the time, but He wanted and needed me to wait. In what aspects of life do you need to slap a smile on, wait, and just keep smiling? Maybe it's a disappointment from not getting that promotion. Maybe it's just not the right time. Maybe you're going to be put on a different path in life so that you meet the right people or get the job opportunity when it's going to be the most beneficial for your life. Maybe you're working on your own business right now and you're trying to grow that and it's just not taking off. Keep smiling. Keep working. You will look back on this season of life with regret if you don't take the time to keep smiling even when the going gets rough. I heard a quote the other day on a podcast that I was listening to, and the woman being interviewed said, life is like a wheel. In order to go up, we also have to go back down. But it's even in those down moments when we're down lowest to the ground that we just know that it has to go back up again from here. Like there's no lower point. It has to go up from here. Now, I'm never saying that you shouldn't ever let your emotions or your sadness out. We need to feel. We need to have raw, authentic emotions. Otherwise, we're going to just bottle it up inside and be like that tea kettle that starts to explode later, and especially when we start to explode on the ones that we love the most. But pick the right time. Sometimes it just needs to be alone, or maybe with your closest confidant over a glass of wine and some tissues and maybe a chick flick. In that hotel room after losing, I had to let my eyes cry out until no more tears could physically flow. My husband was the one to keep handing me tissues as I let my sorrows drown on his t-shirt. He had a giant wet spot of my tears all on his shirt. But the next day, I kept smiling. I went to the breakfast brunch for all the contestants and the new winner, and I kept my face smile on. I went to events with my family, and I had to keep smiling. It took time. Definitely a few months for me to see it was all in good and God's timing and plan. But I got back to work the very next day with framing my mindset in a positive way. Looking back and saying, what can I learn from this? What opportunities is God trying to teach me? And I even ended up doing a little blog post on it about a month or two later. And I realized that I didn't deserve in my heart to win. I was putting so many things above God that He knew I wasn't in the right place in order to win Mrs. Washington 2016. I would spend money that I shouldn't have on just new things for the pageant, saying, oh, well, I need these new shoes to have on stage, instead of being content with the things that I already had and knew that would work. Or I needed to skip out on friends and families and events because I needed to get that extra workout in, or skip church so I could work out that Sunday morning instead of putting God first and putting the right things and priorities. And I just want to ask you, in what areas of life do you need to keep smiling? I encourage you to look for the positive and keep plugging along, and I promise it will get better. In today's show notes, I'll also include the link to my podcast where I share more in depth the takeaways and the overall lessons that I've learned from losing in all my 7 years of pageantry. In that time, I've only won 2 pageants, and believe me, there's a lot of life lessons after losing so many times. I will also include the link to my video blog post that I did about a month after losing Mrs. Washington, and just some of my takeaways and why I felt like it was the right time for me to lose. As always, if you have a question that you would like featured on my podcast, email me Deidra@stylebydeidra.com to have that featured, whether it's a health and fitness question or a pageantry question or interview or style and fashion. Send them my way so I can feature your question on a future episode. And if you are listening on your smartphone, take a screenshot and share it over on your Instagram story and tag me @stylebydeidra, and I will share your screenshot on my story as well. Thanks for listening, and remember to just keep smiling.
Hey ladies, thanks for listening, and we hope you enjoyed today's episode. To help empower more women, please be a doll and rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast. For show notes and other free resources we mentioned today, go to stylebydeidra.com.